Hey guys, welcome back to The Human Condition. This video is another video in what characters represent different character roles. This video is what characters from The Office, uh, what character roles are the characters from The Office. Um, so this would be basically the protagonist, the deuteragonist, the trigonist, the main antagonist, secondary antagonist of The Office. So for this video, Michael Scott is obviously the protagonist, because the protagonist is usually the first person we see in shows and movies. So Michael Scott is obviously the first guy we see in The Office. The deuteragonist, if I remember correctly, is I think Pam and Jim, because in the first scene of The Office, if I'm not mistaken, we first are introduced to Pam and then Jim, because we meet Pam at the receptionist desk, and then we meet Jim actually before that in the very first second, like in the scene. Michael is talking to Jim. So Jim would be the good example of the deuteragonist, and Pam would be also another deuteragonist of The Office, at least for season one. Then we are introduced to Dwight. I'm gonna say something kind of controversial. I think Dwight, at least in the first season, is a trigonist, but he's still really cool, a lit person. But the third most important, at least in with the third season, and this is only because typically the trigonist is the third person we meet in show or movie, and Dwight is the third person we meet in The Office, because I think it's Michael, then we meet Jim, and then through Jim we meet Dwight, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong though. So that's Dwight would be a good representation of the trigonist. The main antagonist would be Jan, I think, in The Office, because especially in the first season at least, because she kind of holds Michael back, kind of roast him, you know. He always doesn't feel as safe, which is a shame in his relationship, and she's a recurring character that comes back. So that's why I'd say she's the main antagonist of The Office most of the time in the show. The really cool role I think is cool that's not talked about, character role, is the overarching protagonist, and this is the character that sets up the protagonist, but we don't see often in shows and movies. For The Office, I'd say that's Ed Truck, because one could argue, I guess, that technically he doesn't set up Michael to be the protagonist, but he is the guy that's the manager while Michael was working at Dunder Mifflin. So, and once he retires, Michael becomes manager. So in a way, he's the overarching protagonist because he sets up Michael to be in the position of manager for the show, which is pretty cool. So that's the protagonist, the Dwight the trigonist. The foil is a pretty cool character role. The foil is the character that's the opposite to the protagonist in the show, and it's in shows and movies. So for this one, it'd probably be either Jim, Dwight, or Pam, because they're stark contrast to Michael, because Michael's chaotic and kind of crazy, the wild card, you know. In the show, he's always doing crazy things all the time in The Office. So for that reason, the characters that are opposite of him is kind of probably Jim, because he's more calm and level-headed and makes the funny reactions to the camera usually in The Office, most of the time, showing the stark contrast between Michael and Jim as characters. So it could be him. It could also be Pam, because she's the one that usually keeps Michael calms down The Office, you know. And really helps keep the office and the characters together. Or it could be Dwight because um, he's very contrast to Michael in the fact that he's more serious and more goal driven, whereas Michael's kind of all over the place, you know. Um, so that's the foils. But after out of those three, I'd say Jim is most likely to be the main foil, and then the final role would probably be the um the main antagonistic force or the morally questionable character in shows. And this one's kind of cool because I was like, there's not a lot of terms for the morally questionable characters, you know, but a lot of times in the shows, they are the ones that are well received by the fans. For example, like in How I Met Your Mother, it's Barney. Uh, in Abbott Elementary, it's Ava. Like my previous videos, you know. So this one actually would be the main protagonist is also the anti-hero in a way, or the main antagonistic force, and that'd be Michael Scott. So it's cool when that character is actually the main character. In The Office, it's Michael Scott. So I guess those are probably all the character roles for The Office. There's probably not really an overarching antagonist like usual, but in conclusion, the overarching protagonist is Ed Truck. The protagonist is Michael, in my opinion. Well, obviously, yeah, Michael. Deuteragonist is probably Pam and Jim, at least in the first season, and then it could change based off later seasons. Dwight is the trigonist, in my opinion, at least in the third season, but he's still a pretty cool guy. Um, yeah. The main antagonist is probably Jan in the first season, and probably overall her or Ryan Howard, you know, because Ryan's also pretty manipulative and you know, main antagonistic sometimes in the show. And yeah, those are the character roles for The Office. I hope this video saves. I got so upset because I made this video already. I was like on the grind. I made 2 videos tonight, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna post them. It's gonna be great. And then it was like, we can't save this. I was like, oh, so I went to my camera roll to delete some videos to make space, but I accidentally deleted the videos I made from both my camera roll and my release and deleted. So I was like, this is but awful. But I hope this one saves, and hopefully the app that I use lets me download it because it didn't say there was enough space. But I feel like I have plenty of space on my phone. But I digress. But thank you guys again for all the support in my recent videos. I really appreciate it. My next video will probably be another astrology video. So stay tuned for that. It should come up soon. As always, thanks again for watching. Like and subscribe if you want. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.